Have you ever been on the verge of sleep and then suddenly snapped awake? Some people feel a falling sensation, while others spasm and twitch until they are lurched awake. Scientists have many theories for why this happens: a vestigial reflex left over from our evolution, a misfire resulting from our mind and muscles preparing for sleep. Bad Chinese food. Hypnic jerks, as they are called, are fairly common, periodically experienced by around 80% of the population. A smaller portion of those individuals experience spasms every night. I was one of those individuals. I remember when they started too. I was 11. It was Thanksgiving and my cousins and I had played football long into the evening. Catching Hail Marys in moonlight is never a great idea, and I ran headfirst into the biggest oak tree on our property. My mum is a nurse, and I heard talk of concussions as I was carried into my room. My parents tucked me into bed, but I didn't want to sleep. On Thanksgiving, my entire family stays in our house for the night. It's a lot of fun, but I didn't want to miss it. But my head hurt awful, and Dad gave me the look, so I sank under the covers. Not everyone remembers their first time, but I sure do. My mind slowly began to empty. Shadows began to flit across my mind as dreams started to take shape. I could still hear the family down the hall, but the laughter and clinking dinnerware was fading. And then suddenly there was a rushing noise, like a windstorm or waves on a beach. It was so loud and fast. For an instant everything in my head went grey and fuzzy, and then I felt my body twitch violently. Whatever I was in, I was jerked out, gasping and unknotting myself from my sheets. Ever since then, I had hypnic jerks. It scared the daylights out of my parents when I first told them. Mum knew what they were, but the fact that it happened 4 to 5 times a week was practically my death sentence to her. I got very familiar my 5th grade year with the hospital where she worked, but after hearing "It's nothing to worry about, Mrs. Evans" so many times, it finally sunk in with her. She would still ask from time to time, but by summer my little issue was a part of the normal backdrop of our lives. And that was it. About every other night, right as I was about to slip off to sleep, I would hear the rushing, my body would give a jerk and I would wake up, and then after a couple of minutes I would fall right to sleep. After 10 years I had grown to expect it, and really it got to be as normal as a glass of water before bed. And other than freaking out my girlfriend from time to time, it was no big deal. That is until last week. It was Thanksgiving again. Now that I was 21, playing football was less interesting than watching it. Oh, and beer. The tradition had not changed and the entire family was staying the night. Now that I could drink, it finally clicked why we had the tradition in the first place. As the hours ticked by and the warmth of the house slowly grew, one by one my family began to nod off. I was in the reclining chair when it hit me, my girlfriend in my lap with her head tucked under my chin. The drone of the knife salesman on the television was like a lullaby, and I felt myself starting to give. The rushing came as I approached the edge of sleep. In the back of my mind I felt bad because I knew I was about to wake her, but there was nothing I could do to stop what was about to come. The rushing grew louder and louder as I waited for the spasm. It grew louder. I felt a rock drop into my stomach as the rushing grew into a roar. This had never happened before. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I wanted so bad to wake up. Fear swept over me as the hellish roaring grew so loud that my ears ached. There was screaming. I felt tears roll down my face. I pissed myself. I couldn't take it anymore, and with an effort I have never given, I forced my eyes open. The second I opened my eyes, the rushing ceased. I still couldn't move, save for my eyes. I was still in the house, but there was no colour, only a dull grey. There was no light either. I could see everything, and there were shadows, but no discernible source of light. It was all grey. There was no sound. There was no warmth, no cold. Nothing but a dark grey shell of my home. My slumbering relatives strewn about on couches and sleeping bags. And then suddenly I saw them. It was like a Where's Waldo moment. My eyes had scanned the room half a dozen times, but now that I saw them, they were all I saw. And when I saw them, the buzzing started. One stood in the corner. The other was in front of the TV. They were these long, thin, black shapes, so black that light could never illuminate them. They looked like the shadows that people cast as the sun gets low, and they were so still, like I startled them. Their faces were 3 white hot holes, 2 smaller ones for eyes and a larger one for a mouth. They were looking for me. Fear like I have never known streaked through me. The buzzing grew louder. I felt like a trapped animal, but I could do nothing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to twist and jerk and wake up, but my body just lay there. I was completely paralysed, my girlfriend still on my chest, my family blissfully unaware of these things in the house. I wanted desperately to move, to run, to scream, but all I could do was look. My eyes raked across the room to the large window on the front of our house. It was then that I knew I had stumbled into the place that I should not be. There they were in the front yard, hundreds of them, all still looking at me. The white eyes and mouth all were facing my direction, and their bodies as still as stone. The buzzing grew louder and louder, and I felt a pinch between my ears. Everything went black. I woke up in the hospital 3 days later. The doctor said I had a seizure while I was sleeping, and that I was lucky to be alive. Of course my Hypnic Jerks came up, but the doctors said they were unrelated, and that I should just focus on getting better. I still haven't been given a reason for the seizure though. I have not had any jerks either. This is the first time I have shared my story, and will probably be the only time. I really don't know what happened, what they were, or where I was. Honestly, I don't want to know. Mulling it over though, the only explanation I can come up with is this. I think people like me have found a door. A door that, for whatever reason, we knock at every night. But it's a door that our very being won't let us open. That night, the door wasn't closed, and I stepped into something where I wasn't welcome. I don't think you are either.